From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
Rolling.
All right, we're in the final 3 weeks leading up to the election. Hi, it's Dale Carter along with Kurt Wheeler. This is Dale Carter's America, with many ways that you can help us spread the word and be part of the family here at Dale Carter's America.
Us out. You can find us on YouTube or Rumble for the video podcast, see our beautiful faces and all the clips that we play. You can also listen to the audio-only podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, drop a comment. It all helps with the algorithm and helps get us in front of new people. And you can also share it the old-fashioned way, share our links and share our YouTube videos and things like that. We really appreciate it. Follow us on Facebook as well and join in the conversation. And we've been having a lot of fun.
Yep. And before we get too deep into this, I want to invite you to our podcast listener appreciation party that is coming up on Tuesday, October 29th. It will be at Funhouse Pizza at their Lee's Summit location on 50 Highway. And we do appreciate you tuning into the podcast, sharing the podcast, watching the videos with us. And so we want you all there. We're not going to share this on KFKF because I don't want a bunch of people showing up just for free food. With that said, the podcast is going to pick up the check that night. So, bring your friends who really care about this stuff. We'll have some special guests that night. We'll have some prize giveaways as well. And we're picking up the tab on the pizza. So it's at Funhouse Pizza, kind of a social gathering at 5, and then we'll get going with an actual podcast episode at 6 o'clock. And October 29th, it's at Funhouse Pizza on 50 Highway in Lee's Summit. Jim Dingman is one of our fine sponsors here. We really appreciate him. He's on 50 Highway in Lee's Summit and 7 Highway in Blue Springs. We always talk about the fact they've got great pizza. It's a fun place to gather, especially if you've got like a party going for your sports team or anything else going on, a party, a birthday party or what have you. And so we thought, well, where would we want to do a listener appreciation party? And just came to the top of the list, Funhouse Pizza in Lee's Summit. I think, Kurt's showing the graphic there as well. I think Bob Watson's going to be there. Bob, of course, was our original sponsor on the podcast. He's my State Farm agent, and we'd love to share him with you. In fact, you should get a quote. When you talk to Bob, you're going to find a guy who is right there aligned with us and our thinking, and he's got a staff who will take care of you right in Blue Springs. He's been there for 50 years. Golden anniversary this year of being a State Farm agent. 816-229-7878, Auto, Home, Life, commercial insurance. He's licensed in Missouri and Kansas, and he'll take care of you. Bundle your home and car insurance, and you'll save even more. Have you figured out yet that I've got a little bit of a cold? Really? It doesn't come through?
Maybe a little, now that you mention it,
I can hear it. Yeah. So I go back to Indiana, right, to see my aunt who I hadn't seen in like 30 plus years, and I hung with a couple of my grandkids. And what you're going to find with your little kids, I don't have little kids anymore, is their Petri dishes. They get whatever, and then they crawl over Grandpa, and the next thing you know, I'm leaving the Monday night game after a Chiefs victory, and I got that catch in my throat that made me think that I overdid it. And here we are 8 days later recording this podcast, and yeah,
they're crawling all over you, just drooling and
I know, it's like
snotting in your face.
And you love them, right? You love your kid. But, you just, you come out of that as a grandparent and you're like, hey, all right, here it comes. I know I'm going to get it. So
right.
Just bring it on, whatever. So I got enough gas to get through the podcast, so we're going to be fine. Did the show this morning and all that. So here we go. There are a lot of things that we're going to talk about here. With 3 weeks to go, we're getting into what we call silly season. We'll update you on what's happening on the Republican side as well. A little segment that I'm going to call It's the Economy, Stupid, which James Carville made popular. And then one of my favorite late-night weekend shows has gotten back to bipartisan fun, poking fun at both sides. So we'll get there as well. If you're having trouble getting there because you've hit something in front of you, you need my buddy Dale. The other Dale in Blue Springs, as I call him. He owns Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs, the original Dale's Collision Repair Center. They've been there since 1987. Now, if you're in a wreck, you don't need to know where your car is being taken, right? You just need to come up with a name to give the tow truck driver. Say that 5 times fast.
Tow truck driver, tow truck driver, tow truck driver, tow truck driver, tow truck driver.
Don't be an asshole. Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs. It's all you got to tell him because he's been doing this for 37 years. He's a local guy. He hires local. He's a terrific guy. We appreciate having him on the podcast. And he's fixed a lot of my wrecked cars over the years, and he's ready to jump in there and fix yours as well. So we are in silly season, and there's a lot of things we're going to talk about here. I had a conversation with my son in Atlanta, and I'm going to peel back some layers here to get us into this. But, you know, I had a nasty divorce in number 2, right? But the one thing that we agreed on when we were married was that we were both conservatives. In fact, it went way back with her dad until he passed away. He'd be rolling over in his grave right now because, you know, remember when we had Scott Parks on and he had worked with my wife?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
She's a wonderful broadcaster. She went to Atlanta to work for NBC. And at some point, something snapped and she decided she didn't want to work anymore. So she's basically sitting around eating bonbons. And my son, who we sent to Atlanta to get him away from a crazy girlfriend here in Kansas City, he ended up going to school down there to learn how to fix jet airplanes. And he's got a great job doing that. But she won't let him leave. She's holding on to him. And now she's filling his mind with everything that the liberals are talking about. And
so she was conservative, and then she started working at NBC and changed.
Well, not just NBC, but the fact that now she's one of the folks who wants the government to help her, right? She's not out there killing it on her own. She's living off of our son, and it really pisses me off. I'm just saying it. Really,
I can tell.
Really pisses me off. So I'm talking to Jonathan, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know who to vote for. You know, I've always considered myself a conservative, but Trump this and Trump that and this and that." And I'm like, "Jonathan, you are making my head explode. Where are you getting this?" And then he starts telling me where he's getting it from. But the point in bringing this up is as we get into silly season and you hear some of these things, none of these people are talking about, wow, I can't wait to vote for Kamala Harris. She's going to make this country so great again. They don't lead with that, do they?
Yeah, they don't.
They lead with Trump's a Nazi. Trump's Hitler. Oh, my God, did you see what Trump did? Trump said that. And they don't even talk about Kamala Harris because all they've got down the last 3 weeks of this thing is scaring the shit out of you so you don't vote for Donald Trump. That is all they have. And I don't know if I gave you enough time there by BSing my way through that, but where I want to start actually is Bill Clinton. Do you have that, or do you want to go? You want to go to the other thing?
I have the Kamala clip.
Okay, well, let's go Kamala first. Okay. The media is really trying to tip the scale down the stretch. Okay, she was on 60 Minutes, right? And she had a question, and she gave her typical word salad. Well, the folks at CBS 60 Minutes, they edited and took another answer from somewhere else to add IQ points to her. And how we know that is because the early show in promoting it didn't do that. And somebody probably got fired for that because they played the original and not the edited. And we have both, and we're going to play it so that you can make up your own mind.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Wow. Did you get the difference there?
Yeah.
The first was the actual answer. The second was the edited version where CBS is like, oh, my God, we can't let this word salad get on the air. So they cleaned it up, and they made her sound semi-intelligent.
I think it might have been, people were speculating, because I didn't watch the whole thing, but that the second answer was about Ukraine, and they cut it in from a Ukraine answer. And I've talked about this before, and, you know, people accuse us of editing the podcast, which we don't. But the benefit of these big broadcast scenarios like 60 Minutes, you have CBS money. They have like 4 or 5 camera angles set up. So even on Kamala, they have 2 or 3 different camera angles on her. Then they have a wide shot of both of them. they have 2 or 3 camera angles of the interviewer. So if you want to edit to cut out things that make the person look bad, it's very easy because you just switch camera angles and then, make sure the audio, you're not cutting in the middle of a breath or something like that. And you can edit together however you want very easily. And they do that all the time.
Yeah. So, I put up something on the podcast Facebook page yesterday or the day before. I don't know. It all runs together anymore. That shows the Simpsons, Homer Simpson talking to Kamala about, aren't you in charge? Why haven't you done this? I can't read it from here. What's it say?
It says, Homer says, things are getting worse in America. And Kamala says, I will fix it. And then Homer says, wait, aren't you in charge right now? And Kamala says, don't.
Yeah. So I put that up, and there were a lot of the things that you would expect from our fans, but also the keyboard warriors who must not have much to do in their lives because they keep coming back to our podcast. It's like, my God, your life must really be empty. But they're talking about, well, she's not really in charge. She's the vice president. She's not running anything. And I'm like, I try and go back to with logic with them, and they're like, all you care about is Trump, Trump, Trump. There's nothing about Trump in that post. It's all about Kamala.
Right.
And I point out to them that in scads of 50-50 tie votes in the Senate that spent trillions of our tax dollars, she was the tie-breaking vote. She's part of this. She brags about the fact that on every decision that the Biden administration made, she was the last person in the room with Joe Biden.
She was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which did the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. And also the checks that went out, she was the tie-breaking vote on that. That put trillions of dollars on the debt and just soared inflation. So those are the kinds of things I have a problem with. She's out there running. She wants it both ways. She wants to say, hey, I get that everything is wrong here, and get me in there and I'll fix it. Well, who's running this country? I don't think it's Joe Biden. Can't you get him in a room and say, let's fix this? And then Joe is stepping on her left and right. We talked about last time about him going out into the briefing room and basically, attaching her to his hip. I don't think she cared for that. And anytime she's about ready to go out and do something, he does something else. So I'm wondering if secretly in the back of his mind, Joe Biden kind of hopes she loses so that he can go, I told you so.
Yeah. All the old feuds are coming back. The feud from 2020 when they were calling each other racist and all that stuff.
Yep. So
I do have that Bill Clinton clip.
Okay, let's go to Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton was asked a question, and I don't know if he listened to himself as he said it, but it was about Laken Riley, who was murdered by an illegal in Georgia, and Bill Clinton seems to blame Kamala Harris and or Joe Biden.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, who was responsible for that?
But if they're all properly vetted and that doesn't happen...
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Did you put that together, or was that the way the clip played?
That was somebody on Twitter.
That's pretty funny. That's good, because anytime they're saying something, they should just go ahead. And maybe they're trying to, I don't know, throw her off, and maybe they want to lose this election. I don't know. Do you have the Carville thing yet?
Is that in the notes?
No.
Okay, and what was it again?
Carville talking about Donald Trump at Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
Because, again, they are unhinged. That's why we're calling this the silly season. None of them are saying, well, one of them is, and I'll get to that coming up, but none of them are saying, wow, can't wait to vote for Kamala Harris. She's going to be so terrific. It's a positive campaign, and we want to be on board for it. It's no. This Trump guy is, deranged. And, he's going to be a dictator. We've talked about that before. He's to the, whatever side of Hitler you need him to be on to be a threat to democracy. That is all they have.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let me just talk about, I don't know if it's going to be the right cut either, but he's talking about the fact that Trump is going to speak at Madison Square Garden. And he's like, you know what else happened in Madison Square Garden in 1939? They had an American Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. And this is just his preview of showing you exactly what he's going to do. I mean, if he wins, I mean, they've put it out there. This is what they're going to do. Of course, he's full of absolute horseshit. But he leaves off the fact that several Democrats have had rallies at Madison Square Garden over the years since
and
1939.
Like hockey games and basketball games and concerts.
Yeah.
And, are they all Nazis too? I guess so.
It's just crazy. And then
they all have the armbands. They have the New York Rangers have secret Nazi armbands under their hockey uniforms.
And Scott Parks, who was here as a guest on this show at our request, because we wanted to talk about, drill down on Trump derangement syndrome. He's got a whole thing out about Donald Trump dancing awkwardly at a rally. Well, when you drill down on that, you know why he was doing it? There was a medical emergency. Actually, there were two at the rally, and they were dealing with people who had fainted, and Donald Trump's not going to continue the rally. So what's he going to do? He's just like standing there with his thumb up his ass, I suppose. And did he make some awkward dance moves? I guess he did. But they're treating it like he's had an episode. Does he have Alzheimer's? He just stopped the rally and just started dancing. He just looked weird.
Yeah, they'll take out whatever context they have to in order to make him look bad. There's been a couple times, too, at rallies where people have had, like, especially during the summer, I think there was one where somebody had heat stroke or something like that, and he stopped the rally, walked off stage, walked over to the row where the person was at to make sure that they were okay. So, of course, the media is not going to show that.
None. They won't show that at all. Okay, I'm done on the audibles for you on my notes here. We'll go right back to the actual notes. And, this is another one of those things where politicians, particularly on the left, they cannot be their authentic selves. Because if they were their authentic selves, they would never win an election. If you knew exactly who they were, that they go to Martha's Vineyard, they hang out with the ritzy Ritz crowd and all that, they probably wouldn't get your vote. So what they have to do is kind of fake it till they make it. George Dukakis, who ran against George H.W. Bush, his Waterloo, if you will. I think he was leading Bush in the polls at this point, and he needed to be a tough guy. So he got his picture taken in a tank with a goofy-looking helmet on. And America went, what? Yeah. So that's how he lost that election. Kamala was on with Stephen Colbert, and Colbert is doing anything he can to try and help her down the stretch, including for the swing state of Wisconsin, teeing up a beer.
Now, we asked ahead of time, because I can't just be giving a drink to the Vice President of the United States without asking. You asked for Miller High Life. You asked for Miller High Life.
She's a Miller girl.
Okay, the last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
So cheers.
Cheers.
There you go.
Cackle, cackle, cackle.
Ooh.
She drinks it. She takes a sip. She's like, that's fucking disgusting.
That's disgusting. Now, see,
no, I actually like Miller High Life.
If it were me, I would be my authentic self. And too many people know the fact that I don't like the taste of beer.
Right.
I haven't acquired it. I'm not an alcohol guy unless we're talking about a girly drink.
You'd be like, hey, do you have a Malibu and pineapple?
Exactly. And I am secure enough in my own sexuality as a man that I can go order double tall, by the way, Malibu and pineapple.
I will say politics is very vain, and it's Hollywood for ugly people. Not that you're an ugly person, but you know what I mean. But that would be a bad look if you were campaigning in Wisconsin and you turned down a beer in favor of a Malibu pineapple. That people would look down on that.
Well, remember when John Kerry got a Philly cheesesteak? You would know about this, right? That's your area.
Yeah.
And he did something really bizarre with it, and he took a lot of grief about that. But I am who I am, and I can't change who I am, and I'm not going to change it to try and get people to vote for me. Maybe that's why I was a failed politician. That's possible. Tim Walz is the guy that she brought in to man up the thing, and this is kind of an audible for you. But I saw this yesterday. He was all dressed in orange, and he had his shotgun. And you being a gun guy, and I'm not a gun guy, and I wouldn't pretend to be a gun guy just to get votes. But Walz was out there.
Are you talking about him loading his shotgun?
Yeah, that's an audible here.
No,
but
I got it.
He, it's like he had the gun like up in his crotch, and if it backfired, it would have made him into a woman, I think. Right? Look at this. So, I mean, you're a gun guy. Tell me what's going on here.
Okay, hold on. Let's pull it up.
Play by play from Kurt.
Frame by frame this.
Yes, that's by Kerry, and it never fits quite right.
The Zapruder film. He can't quite get it done.
Governor, what kind of gun is it?
This is a Beretta A400. I bought it when I was shooting a lot of trap because it has a kind of their patented thing, a kickoff. So when you get old, it doesn't hurt your shoulder as much.
I mean, is that cringeworthy? I'm not a gun guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but it's a short clip out of I mean, I kind of got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt here with that one. We'll watch it again real quick. I'll mute it, but you can see basically what he's doing is he's trying to load the shotgun through the loading gate on the bottom.
Yeah.
And depending on the shotgun, especially if you have multiple shotguns, which I will not say whether I do or not, but they can be different. Each one is different. And sometimes, you can get your finger kind of jammed in the loading gate if you don't do it right. You have to like have a certain movement with your thumb to get it in there. It can be kind of tricky. I don't know. I mean, at least he didn't shoot a guy in the face like Dick Cheney.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I mean, it's not a great look, but it's not really that big of a deal. I think it's people are jumping on it a little bit.
All right. Well, that happened yesterday before, after I did all this. So I wanted to get your take on it because you know more about this stuff than I do. I know a little bit about the Electoral College. As a political science history major, if you go back to the founding of this country, the compromise that brought the 13 individual countries together. Remember that we were not the United States. We were 13 different colonies that came together as states and formed the United States of America. They tried it with the Confederation of States at first. It didn't work. They had to go back to the drawing board. They came up with the Constitution. And one of the things in the Constitution that brought those states together was, hey, we're little Delaware over here. We don't want to get steamrolled by Pennsylvania and New York and Massachusetts and Virginia. So what are you going to do to help us out? So that's where the Electoral College came in, that the election of the president would be based on the number of representatives in the House of Representatives, and each state would get 2 votes for their senator. Now, Democrats, I don't know for how long, they've been trying to get rid of it, because they know that there's an overabundance of Democrats in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco, Chicago, and New York, that they could overwhelm the small states and go direct election. They'd like to get rid of the Electoral College. With that said, Tim Walz, now Kamala Harris again, which one do we believe? Do we believe Kamala in 2019 or 2024? Because she's tempered her views, at least to try and run for president. And Tim Walz, like Joe Biden, is stepping all over her message.
Well, it's not the campaign's position. And the point I'm trying to make is that there's folks that feel every vote must count in every state. And I think some of folks feel that's not the case. Our campaign does that. And the point I'm saying is I'm in 5 states in 2 days. We're out there making the case that the campaign's position is clear, that that's not their position. Their position and my position is to make sure that everybody understands their vote, no matter what state they're in, matters.
So that's something that you and Vice President Harris disagree on?
I have spoken about it in the past, that she's been very clear on this, and the campaign, and my position is the campaign's position.
All right, well, that's it. That's what the number 2 guy is supposed to do. He's supposed to toe the line on the campaign. And again, we go back to what we said last week. If you look at Democrat math, Barack Obama needed somebody dumber than him to be VP. He found Joe Biden. Biden wanted somebody dumber than him, so he found Kamala Harris. Kamala, using that same math, found Tim Walz, and God help us if Tim Walz ever becomes president, because I'm not sure how you dumb it down any further than that. So, we could get rid of the Electoral College. We could modify the Electoral College. I thought about what they're doing in Nebraska, and I kind of like it, Kurt. They call it the blue dot, right? You get all of the votes except that one congressional district, and it's reliably Democrats, so the one will go to Kamala probably out of Nebraska. What if we did that on a national scale? We just said that, every state gets 2 for the popular vote winner within that state, but then we'll go congressional district after that. I think they want to be careful what they ask for, because Democrats typically want to trash something that is in the Constitution or something that we've done forever and ever and ever. And then Republicans use it to their advantage, and Democrats are like, oh, shit, did we really do that? So what do you think about that? What if we went congressional district across the map and every state got 2 for their popular vote within the state?
I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, it's still subverting the state's rights, and the Electoral College, it's just doing it less. It's just it's a more measured way of doing it. But the reason that they want to eliminate the Electoral College, and the reason that they always talk about the popular vote is because Democrats in the past few elections have been winning the popular vote. Even I think when Trump won, Hillary won the popular vote.
She did.
And that's just going to continue to be more and more the case because they're bringing in all these illegals that are going to start voting if they're not already.
Yeah.
The population centers are growing, and those tend to be Democrat because of all the propaganda and various things that are happening. So that's the only reason they're doing it.
But my point is, if you take the 435 House districts, okay, and if you win, let's say like in my town, the 4th, 5th, and 6th come into Blue Springs. So if you win the 4th, and Mark Alford's going to win that's a vote for the Republican nominee. Cleaver's probably going to win 5. But, and it would put Missouri in play a little bit for the Democrats, but it would also put California in play. It would also put Illinois in play. It would put New York in play. I don't want to do it. I'm just saying if you want to do it, go full bore and get everybody on board. Don't just say we're going to scrap it with an executive order, which you couldn't do anyway. It wouldn't be constitutional. Let's get everybody on board and do it the right way. They don't want to do it the right way. They want to try and scrap it and then, win in the short run, lose in the long run, and blame Republicans for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's obviously the strategy. If it was reversed, if the popular vote was going to Republicans, then they would not be in favor of eliminating the Electoral College, which they are. I mean, they're just hiding the ball to try and moderate to win the election. They are in favor of banning or getting rid of the Electoral College. They've said so many, many times. They are in favor of packing the Supreme Court. They've said so many, many times. They are in favor of banning, certain guns.
The filibuster.
XYZ. Yeah. They're just trying to moderate. Oh, that's not the campaign's position. Yeah, the campaign is trying to win. The campaign, has to reach rural voters in Pennsylvania to have any chance of winning the election. So
one of the areas that Kamala Harris is getting weak on is black men. And Barack Obama is incredulous about that. So they sent Barack Obama out. Remember when Biden ran, he was on that interview program famously, and he said, hey, if you can't decide whether you're for me or for Trump, you ain't black, right?
I thought I had the drop, but I don't.
That's kind of, I think, what Obama was saying. Do we have that clip?
Yep.
You're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable.
That's unacceptable. You have to vote for her because she is a woman of color and she's a Democrat.
I just think it's hilarious, these people that Obama's like a black icon. He's like a hero, and yet he just talks down to people. He talks to them like children, like have some respect, have some respect for adults. We don't, we'll call people idiots. We'll call people, say they're wrong. We'll say, come on the podcast and debate us. You could even say you're stupid, whatever, but you're not saying, you have to vote this, you call yourself a white man and you're going to vote for Kamala, it's just,
He did say that she is prepared for the job, as prepared for the job as any president has ever been.
Yeah, sure.
He's the only one saying that. Everybody else is like, Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad. At least he said that she's as prepared as any president has ever been. Now,
well, here's the other thing. Sorry to interrupt you. Here's the other thing about that, too, is that Obama is still pulling the strings, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And so a Harris presidency, not only does he want that because he's a Democrat and he aligns with her politically, but he wants that because it's money in his pocket. Big money, big money. He's going to be going on speaking tours. He's going to be giving policy recommendations and being put on the team. He's involved now to some degree. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still somewhat running the show with Biden in the condition that he is. So it's good for him personally. His money, his legacy, his fame, his Netflix deals, all that stuff improves with a Kamala win.
Well, think about that line, though. She is as prepared for the job as any president has ever been. That is a direct quote from Barack Obama. Joe Biden was in the Senate for most of his life and the vice president for 8 years before he became president. She's running against a guy who was the president. How can they even make that statement? She was kind of like Obama, if you think about it, a backbench senator from a liberal state who stumbled into the vice presidency. Obama came at a time when the country was ready for a black president. And it was like, oh, remember that? Remember Denver at the convention when they had those Doric columns that he walked through? Oh, right? And he rode that. He got the Nobel Peace Prize before he did anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Nice use of the word Doric there, too. That's someone paid attention in architecture class.
A little bit of a vocabulary there. Not as stupid as our keyboard warriors think I am. Because I did go to college. I didn't go to KU, right? And maybe I'm glad that I didn't go to KU because of Dr. Lowcock. You cannot make that up. Dr. Lowcock is his name.
Heyo.
Now think about probably how he was teased as a child.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Lowcock.
Yeah.
So he had his view. First of all, he's no longer at the University of Kansas. They were recording this, which he mentions, in case you haven't heard this, this is a professor at the University of Kansas talking about men who won't vote for Kamala Harris. Now, I know why I won't vote for her. I know why Kurt's not going to vote for her, because we don't agree with her on policy. And Lowcock has kind of an answer for us.
Do you think it's better if your name is Lowcock or Highcock?
Woodcock.
Woodcock,
remember that? That was a movie that Billy Bob Thornton was in.
That's not so bad. That's not so bad.
And, you know, if I were going to be a cock, I think I'd want to be a woodcock.
Yeah, it's better than Lowcock for sure.
Guys are smarter than girls. You got some serious problems. That's what frustrates me. There are going to be some males in our society that will refuse to vote for a potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, you're not getting to the good part yet. Oh, you got to roll that back. I'm sorry. I stepped all over it.
A potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president. We could line all those guys up and shoot them. They clearly don't understand the way the world works. Did I say that? Scratch that from the recording. I don't want the deans hearing that I said that.
Well, they heard it, and I'm sure they've taken the recording devices out of those classrooms now because you don't want to record that stuff. I mean, and you wonder why our Ivy League students are out there with no concept of history or geopolitics saying, from the river to the sea. You know, because they don't understand what those words mean, and they are on the side of people who would throw gays from tall buildings and take women's rights back to the 5th century. They just don't understand it because they're being indoctrinated by these people. And if you are paying tuition to the University of Kansas, this is what you're getting. And it's not just Kansas. It's major universities. I don't know how it was when you went to college, Kurt, but when I went, there was not one conservative professor at my university. It was a bastion of liberalism.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like that when I went to school, too. I think it was a little less bad just because it wasn't like as overtly woke with all the racial grievance, LGBTQ type stuff, but it was definitely very liberal.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
So if you're a Catholic, I want to know what you think of this video, this weird video that Gretchen Whitmer put out that she says has to do with the CHIP Act being passed. Now, remember, let's see if you're a Catholic, because this came out and I'm like, what in the hell is she doing? And how do you even defend this as not just, I mean, it almost looks like, not that I would know this, but it looks like the beginning of a pornographic movie.
This is it, right?
Yeah. Doesn't have any sound. So
we'll get copyright for that, so I'm going to mute it.
So, and she's wearing a Harris Walls hat. She puts the Dorito on her tongue. As a Catholic, you would know that you know that's how they do communion. And then she looks with this weird look toward the camera.
What's the context here? Like, what is the
again?
Message
She
that
said
she's trying to...
it was memorializing the passage of the CHIP Act. So she put a chip on this influencer's tongue, much as a Catholic priest might do during communion.
Very strange.
Very bizarre.
Very strange.
So that's the weird stuff that's going on in here. And again, you're not hearing anything from us about Trump. This isn't the Trump section. This is what's going on the Democrat side, where they're not talking about anything other than Trump bad, and you've got to vote for Harris or it's the end of the world as we know it. So when you see us on October 29th at Funhouse Pizza in Lee's Summit, it will be the day after my colonoscopy. And I've been working with the folks there at Midwest GI, and it's interesting because the last time I had a colonoscopy, they had to ship me the kit in order to get the colonoscopy. Now it's all over the counter. It looks like it's going to be very low key. I'm going to go in there. They're going to find that there's nothing there that wasn't there before because I've already had one, and everything's going to be fine. And Dr. Mark Taramina is going to join us there at the party on the 29th. I think we're going to shoot some video, hopefully nothing too invasive of my privacy. And
I've got the scope lens ready to go.
Really? The scope cam?
Yeah.
That'll be cool. Midwest GI Health and Wellness. The serious part here is if you're 45 or older, 45 is the new 50. And if you get that colonoscopy and you get screened, if you have polyps that would lead to colon cancer, we can get them quick and get you on the road to recovery. If you don't get them and it turns into full-blown colon cancer, you've got a serious problem. It is like one of the top killers of people these days. So this could save your life. Call Dr. Taramina's office at 816-836-2200. They're in Lee Summit. They'll take care of everything right there in the office. That's where I'm going to be on the 28th. And on the 29th, I'm going to celebrate with a big funhouse pizza. 816-836-2200 on the web at MidwestGIHealth.com. Again, this could save your life. And once you get that new lease on life, you want to get out of that lease, right? And become a homeowner for the first time. Michael Schroer is the guy who can make that happen. Real estate pro at Remax Heritage. Call him up at 816-783-5800. If you're thinking about buying your first home, you got a home you need to sell, you're thinking about getting more bedrooms because you got more kids, your kids are going off to college, hopefully not KU with Lowcock as their professor, you want to downsize. Maybe you found that perfect piece of land. Michael Schroer is an expert on all of that. 35 years he's been helping folks just like you in both Kansas and Missouri. Call him up and get that conversation started, 816-783-5800. Michael's going to be at our event on October 29th. You can talk to him there as well. Fantastic guy and a big-time supporter of the podcast. Okay, the Republican side. I love our bench, and I know you do too, right?
Some, yeah.
Once we get past this election and Donald Trump is no longer the crucifix for the Democrats, they better come up with more because we've got a lot of young, intelligent, well-spoken people who are coming up right behind him. And one of my favorites is Vivek Ramaswamy. And he couched this moment in time as our 1776 moment. It's kind of a long clip, but I think it's worth every minute.
Moment, folks. I'm telling you something. And I mean that in a positive way, actually. Think about it. What a special time to be alive in the spring of 1776. We could have been victims. Our founding fathers could have been victims, claimed to be victimized by the British monarchy, but they weren't victims. They were victorious. That's the moment we live in right now, and it took a band of our founding fathers to do it. My favorite one, Thomas Jefferson. He was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. I was 37 when I ran for U.S. president, youngest ever Republican to run. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the whole ball game into motion. And he invented the swivel chair, by the way, while he was at it. That's Thomas Jefferson for you. He's my favorite. You got the likes of my friend Elon Musk, who was here, last week in Pennsylvania. Give my man a round of applause there. Took a lot of guts for him to make the sacrifices and take the risks he's taken to speak out for Donald Trump. He's like our modern Benjamin Franklin, actually. Benjamin Franklin, the first time around, he invented the lightning rod. He invented the Franklin stove, one of the leading inventions of his time. I see somebody wearing a bifocal spectacle. That was actually invented by Benjamin Franklin as well. Elon Musk sending ships to outer space, inventing the next generation of vehicles. He's the Benjamin Franklin of our time, coming together with my friend J.D. Vance, like John Adams, the first vice president, cerebral, an abolitionist, a good man. And the man who's going to lead us from the front is the George Washington of our era. That's who Donald Trump is. He's the George Washington of our 1776 moment. He could fight, George Washington could, but he could also unite. And that's what I think Donald Trump is going to do that nobody in the media will admit. He'll be the president who actually unites this country. We are in the middle of a war right now. I won't say that lightly. But our war is not against our fellow citizen or our neighbor. They're not our enemy. Our enemy is an ideology. Donald Trump understands that. And the way we're going to unite this country, the way we're going to win this election, including in Pennsylvania, look, is everything going to go exactly as we want it to? Probably not. But a landslide minus some shenanigans is still a decisive victory. That's how we're going to unite this country. That's how we're going to save America this time around. We don't have to be this nation in decline that we've become. We don't have to be ancient Rome. Decline is a choice. I truly believe that if we get it right this November, this is less than 30 days from now, guys. We do not want to wake up on November 6th and ask ourselves, what more could we have done to get this right for our country in our hour of need? Our founding fathers made a sacrifice. 56 men signed the Declaration of Independence. 12 of them had their homes ransacked and burned to the British all the way until their death. 5 of them were tortured by the British until their death. 9 died in the American Revolution. 3 more of them had their own kids die in the American Revolution. They didn't do it for them. They did it for us so we could be here 250 years later enjoying the blessings of liberty in the greatest nation known to the history of mankind. So we will not be the generation that screws it up. We're going to fix it in our 1776 moment. That's less than 30 days from right now. You send Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Dave McCormick, and the rest of our Republican crew back to the White House and to Washington, D.C., then no, we don't have to be this nation in decline. We still can be a nation in our ascent. Maybe even the early stages of our ascent. Still on our way to that shining city on a hill. That country where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them, you get ahead in the United States with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication, and that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what reunited us after the Civil War. That is what won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is what still gives hope to the free world. And if we can revive that dream over group identity and victimhood and grievance, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, not China, and certainly not Kamala Harris is going to defeat us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about, and that is what we will get when we send your next president, Donald J. Trump, back to the White House. Thank you all. God bless you.
Yeah. So that, by the way, comes from a man of color.
That was all off prompter, by the way. He was not reading off a teleprompter.
Yeah. And really, I don't know how long that clip was, but that sums up my view. And I like that guy. I think he's got a future in the Republican Party. And I hope that we are at that moment in time because we are choosing to be in decline. You people who voted for Joe Biden chose what's happened the last nearly 4 years. And it seeps into the media. That leads me to the next clip. Martha Raddatz on ABC had J.D. Vance on. And first of all, Martha Raddatz is the one who cried the night Donald Trump won. I mean, she is all in the bag here for the Democrats and doing anything she can to pull the strings. J.D. Vance took her to school in this clip.
Let's check it out. I haven't seen this yet.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful.
Oh, stop the tape there. I need to set that up a little bit better. He's talking about the gangs of illegals taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado.
I'm going to stop you. The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Oh, God.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be.
Do you hear yourself?
That is embarrassing.
That it's acceptable. It's just a handful. Come on, Kurt. Just a handful of illegal gangs. Terrorizing people. It's acceptable to them that we're a nation in decline unless we make the decision to fix it. Meanwhile, there's this. A suspected ISIS operative arrested in Oklahoma City uncovers a plot to stage attacks on Election Day. Okay? Is this what bad guys here illegally have been planning for? You know, are they going to mount some effort on Election Day to hurt this country, to wound this country? Well, the person you should not ask is the Homeland Security Secretary, Mayorkas. He was conducting a briefing. He never does this. So Jackie Heinrich at Fox actually had a chance to ask him a question and tried to ask about this, and this is what Mayorkas did.
Mr. Secretary, how was this man brought into the U.S.? What screening did he undergo? What did he apply for to get here?
Jackie, I'm here in North Carolina communicating with the individuals who are still conducting search and rescue operations. Over 200 people have lost their lives in Hurricane Helene. We have reports that at least 10 individuals have lost their lives as a result of Hurricane Milton. I'd be very pleased to answer your question in a different setting, but we're here to talk about emergencies and the support that we can deliver to people in desperate need. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, but we're getting conflicting answers from your agency and from the State Department about a man who was arrested for an Election Day terror plot. How do you not have those answers prepared?
Jackie, that's not what I said. What I said is I'd be pleased to discuss this issue at a different time, but I am here to speak about disasters that have impacted people's lives in real time, and that is the subject that I'm addressing today.
Mr. Secretary, can you assure people that appropriate steps have been taken to secure the country against these kinds of threats? Because the outstanding question is whether this man was radicalized before the U.S. government brought him here or afterward. And people should be concerned about that.
Jackie, your persistence in questioning can be matched by my persistence in answers.
Yeah, which you don't have.
Denial.
Exactly. Not even denial. He's not even going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, there should have been a pat answer. You are the Secretary of Homeland Security. I get that you wanted to make this presentation about the hurricane victims, and we care about the hurricane victims too. But can you not chew gum and walk at the same time?
Yeah, it's
more
crazy.
than one thing can be going on in this world, and he's clearly not.
Well, that's why he
for it.
doesn't show up to the press conferences, is because he can't answer questions like that. He can only answer questions if it's a softball layup, you know. And even then, I mean, FEMA's like totally jacking up the whole thing with the hurricanes.
Yeah.
You know, there's been all kinds of crazy footage going around of them stopping people from getting aid from private charities and volunteers and things like that. So. But I'm sure, you know, if he was to be asked a question about that, he would be like, well, you know, I'm not going to answer that. We're working on it. It's an ongoing investigation. That's their go-to line.
Could have said that.
It's an ongoing investigation.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm here to talk about this, and that's all I can do right now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, the guy who's got answers for your roof is my friend Austin Watterson. And in fact, if it's time to go solar, Mike Dale on his team can help you out there. They're going to be there on October 29th to answer questions that you have. If you've been thinking about turning your house into its own energy generator, Mike Dale's got all the answers for you. And he's not going to sell you something that you can't use that's not going to work. There's a lot of shysters out there. These guys are not that. They did the roof on my house. One of the questions is, how long are you going to live in that house? I'm not going to live in mine that much longer. So it didn't make sense for me, but it might well make sense for you. Royal Roofing and Solar. They did the roof at my house. Let them bid your house. We've had a lot of storms, a lot of damage. Perhaps insurance might step in and help you. 816-540-7057. That's the number you need. Royal Roofing and Solar. Remember the name, Royal Roofing and Solar. I don't know why you'd remember that name. Royal Roofing and Solar. Solarbyroyal.com. RoyalContractingKC.com. That's the shortcut. But again, come to the party on October 29th and talk to these guys. They're low pressure. They got into this podcast because they believe, like we do, that our country can be better. Somebody else who believes that is Kirk Doris and Lori Hocker, and they contend with something else from the government every day, and that's Medicare. Their company is MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. Medicare will go through lots of changes in the new fiscal year. Are you ready for it? Blue Cross of Kansas City no longer going to offer Medicare Advantage plans in 2025. So if you were enrolled in a Blue Advantage plan this year, you got to enroll in another plan for 2025. Another major carrier has lost its contract with both North Kansas City Hospital and a very prominent provider group north of the river. And the Inflation Reduction Act, I almost laugh when I say that, will totally alter Medicare prescription drug coverage in 2025. What's the right plan for you? If you're 65 or older, maybe approaching 65, talk to these people. They will be there October 29th as well. We're going to have an hour where we're just going to talk before the podcast. Talk to these folks, Kirk Doris and Lori Hocker, incredible people at MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. You can reach them at 816-701-6661.
Tremendous people.
No clips in this. There's some things I want to say about the economy because the economy really concerns me. Our federal debt right now is approaching $36 trillion. Our personal debt is approaching $26 trillion. We're living off credit cards right now because inflation is so high, because the Biden administration dumped in trillions of dollars in spending that even Democrats told them was insane. They did it anyway. So that's what we're coping with right now. And quite frankly, neither campaign, Kurt, is talking about the debt.
Yeah.
They're both out there promising things. Donald Trump is out there promising things. He's going to give this tax break. He's not going to tax this. He's going to make sure tips aren't taxed. And right now, he's falling into that pander trap that Democrats live in. And you know Kamala Harris is out there doing it. She's trying to get black votes. She's out there with a plan to get black men to vote for her, including very racist policies, if you look at it on the surface, aimed at black men. And really, at the end of the day, what the Democrats want to do is they want to tax, regulate, and all that adds up to one word, and that word is control. They want to control us. They want to control what we do. And they even say it out loud now, right? You can't have this kind of stove. You can't have this kind of water heater. We want everybody driving an electric car. They want to control our lives. Republicans want to take the shackles off. It's like, we want you to be the best individual you can be. And some black men are going, you know what? That sounds pretty good. We've had 50 years of your promises, Democrats, your programs, Democrats, your spending and your control. Maybe we want to try it a different way. But we hear a lot of talk about cutting this tax, making these people pay their fair share, this tariff, that tariff. I want to break all that down because you, the taxpayer, you, the consumer, are the end of this line. Every tax increase or tariff hits the end user, and that's you, and that's me. When they say they're going to raise taxes on the rich and evil corporations, those rich people will adjust their spending. Those corporations will pass along any increases to customers. In other words, you. And before you throw out all the evil corporations, you might want to look at your 401k, your IRA, because you may be one of these evil corporations. Mm-hmm. Do you own stock in those evil corporations? Perhaps you do. When workers go on strike and they demand artificially high wages, the cost of production, again, goes to the end user, you. It always comes back to us, right? Whenever they say, hey, we're going to do this, oh, yeah, it always fails in the long run because it comes back to you. The only way out of the mess that we're in right now is to reduce the highest cost businesses face, and that is unnecessary government regulation. Get government out of the way, let business thrive as the market allows. Now, everybody's going to say, oh, you want monopolies and blah, 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 blah. I think there are reasonable restrictions you could put on business. I think we're at an unreasonable point right now, and it's killing our economy.
Well, also government regulation creates monopolies. I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole we don't need to go into right now, but that's true.
Well, picking winners and losers always results in losers, and that's you. That's me. That's Kurt. That's everybody who is a taxpayer and or a consumer. When they get involved, you lose. And what really pisses me off is when they go out there and they say, oh, look at this great economy we've produced. Look at all the jobs that we've produced. All government can do is fuck it up, in my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. Sorry for the language warning there, or that didn't happen. but that's all they can do. They can screw it up. Taking the shackles off, taking government out of it, doing what government does well, which I could count on one hand and still have some fingers left over, take care of all of that. Let the economy with certain reasonable curbs grow and flourish. And I don't think Donald Trump's the perfect candidate. And I've said this to people. I've said it to you. I don't know if there is a perfect candidate, but I think when you match him up with Kamala Harris, as far as who will do exactly what I just said, it's Donald Trump, hands down. It's not even close. And if you want to keep dragging this down and 3.5 years later go, God, they fooled us again, we got to go a different way. And I think we are going to go a different way. I think the polls are lining up that way. I think the Democrats are in pure panic mode. It's why it's almost like the end of a fireworks display, Kurt. They're throwing up everything they can into the sky because they know it's coming down this way. So we're less than 3 weeks away. When we meet at Funhouse Pizza, it will be 1 week to go before the election. We'll have some special guests there, and we'll talk about all that. And one of the folks who's going to be there, I think, if his schedule permits, he's a busy guy, is Bob Watson. Bob's my State Farm agent, has been a State Farm agent in Blue Springs for 50 years. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance. He's at 816-229-7878, licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. You know State Farm is a brand. I mean, it's repped by Patrick Mahomes, for crying out loud, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. Well, the guy who makes State Farm work on the local level is my friend Bob Watson. Bundle your home and car insurance, and you'll save even more. Growing up, one of my favorite shows was Saturday Night Live because they always poked fun at both sides, and they were really good at it. And, you know, when Saturday Night Live came on the air, Kurt, my parents were very conservative. My stepdad was a policeman, and we weren't allowed to watch it. So I had to go to my friend Hoffman's house. His dad was a college professor, so they were very liberal, right? So I'd go spend the night with him on Saturday nights. We'd listen to, you know, George Carlin records, Richard Pryor records, all the things I couldn't do at home, and we'd wait up for Saturday Night Live, which is why I couldn't wait to see the movie Saturday Night. Have you seen that advertised?
I haven't. And by the way, I'm going to have to play like a very small snippet of this because we've been having some stuff taken down. This will be copyright.
Okay. Well, I think what I gave you was a short, maybe not short. Anyway, the Saturday night movie that's out is the origin story of Saturday Night Live, the first night they went live at NBC. And for me, it took me back to being that little kid who had to sneak out of the house and go stay at my friend Hoffman's house to actually watch it. So anyway, they also went with another one of my favorite shows in their opening, and that is Family Feud. I can't think of the guy's name who plays Steve Harvey in their bits.
Kenan Thompson.
He's very funny. So let's roll the clip here, and just a very funny opening to Saturday Night Live.
I'm going to have to play like 10 seconds of it.
Oh, VP Harris.
Steve, look, I was raised in a middle-class family, all right?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, my mother raised my sister and me, all right? She worked hard and saved up.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And we
You get the idea.
Well, the question was, what do you have in your glove box? I was raised a middle-class child, and her answer is a Glock, and a Glock is up there.
we had a second
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and then they go to her husband, Doug Inhofe, and it's like, you know, well, her answer was pretty good. Maybe it's another Glock. And that was the number one answer on the board. It was just funny. The Trump thing was funny as well. They made fun of Trump and how he goes off on rants and raves and all that. I thought it was very well balanced, very well done. So it's good to see Saturday Night Live is back doing what they do best.
Yeah, that chick, Maya Rudolph, I think her name is. She does a decent Kamala. It's not great, but it's decent.
Dana Carvey was on doing his Joe Biden, which was really funny too.
Yeah.
You know, so he kept calling the Steve Harvey character different game show hosts, and you know, why am I here? I don't know. So there you go. Saturday Night Live is back. We're closing in on this election. It's very important. I hope we see a lot of you on October 29th at Funhouse Pizza in Lee's Summit on 50 Highway. 5 o'clock social hour, 6 o'clock podcast. We're paying for the pizza. Please come and join us and spread the word on Dale Carter's America. We're getting so close to what I think will be a good result in November. Until next time, this is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to DaleCartersAmerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.